Welcome to Happy Talks with Dr. Alice and Donovan. Dr. Alice Fong is a holistic naturopathic doctor and founder of Amour de Soi Wellness. And Donovan Jensen is a software engineer and founder of HowToHappy.com. Together, they're out to cause more happiness in the world.
Hi everyone, welcome to Happy Talks. Today I have the exciting opportunity to interview Lindsay Hoffman, who is an entertainment journalist, blogger, and entrepreneur. She has an amazingly huge following, so we're really excited to have her on our show. Please welcome Lindsay.
Thank you. What a great intro to me. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Yes, well, we're really excited to have you on our show. And I'm just curious, what was your path to becoming a journalist?
So it's like an interesting path. If we go all the way back, honestly, when I was little, I had watched TRL, and I was watching Say What Karaoke. I was like 7, and I thought, oh, I could do that one day. That would be a really cool job. But then I remember thinking, oh, you probably need an agent. It's so hard. They would never pick me. Why would they pick me? But I was just it was just a thought I had. So I just ignored that thought. I just thought I wouldn't ever be picked for anything. And how would I get an agent? An agent wouldn't even pick me. And then this is when I was 7. So fast forward my life, and I didn't even think about becoming a journalist. I wanted to be an interior designer, and I wanted to design for the stars and be on it was similar to being a journalist. I wanted to do trading spaces and things like that, have my own show on HGTV. And so that's what I went to college for originally. But after the first semester of college, I realized I do love art. I had good grades. I knew I was going to be able to go the direction I wanted to go. I realized I didn't the homework was you'd have to draw you'd have to draw 10 sketches, and it would take 10 hours for one sketch, and it would be due each week. And that was just one class. And I realized maybe I'm an artist at heart, but I don't want to be forced to do my craft. I want to just be creative. So maybe there's something else I want to do. So I met with the advisor, and they had noticed that I really loved giving presentations to the class. We always had all these projects where we'd have to plan, we'd work with the architects and the landscape designers, and we'd have to create a building and present it and pitch it to the class. And they saw that I loved doing that. So they said, well, maybe you should do a career where you talk to people. And I always say a little joke, I love talking a lot. So it's I might as well get a job that I get paid to talk. So I still didn't know what I wanted to do. So they were why not look into communications? There was the journalism field, but for some reason I still was oh, I'm not good enough. I was saying all these negative things to myself. You needed a really high GPA, which my GPA was there. But it's usually a school you have to run through all these hoops to get into. So I just went into regular communications, and then I met with the dean there, and he's just you deserve more than this. This is a good major, but this is the easiest major to get into our school, and your grades are high enough that you can get into journalism and mass communications. You should just go. So I don't know how this worked. Usually you have to jump through hoops to get into that field, but I guess my scores were high enough, and they just brought me in. So it wasn't until really my junior year that I got into journalism. And when I started being you know what, I had this dream when I was 7, and I told myself I wasn't good enough to do it all this time. Here's my chance. Maybe I should try. And even when I was there, I was looking at all these other kids, and they were just I don't know if you remember in school or places you go, they just seemed super journalists and writers. They used all these big words, and I just talk more how I talk, and I write how I talk. So I was oh, I really have to get on it. I don't even know how to turn on a camera. And so I just started doing internships. Sorry, this is kind of a long story, but it has a good ending. So I started doing these internships, and I was okay, I got to get ahead. I have 2 years to get ahead. I don't even know how to turn on a camera. Don't even know if I'll get into the school news, because they had favorites. I was I have no time to become a favorite. I have 2 years to get to the end. So I had met with my advisor. I had asked a lot of questions, and I found out that your freshman year, they usually give you a mentor in the field you want to work. And I wanted to do celebrity journalism. And this will get into manifestation, but they didn't allow celebrity journalism at our school. They didn't consider it real news. And so the closest you could get was sports, or you had to do traditional news. And I was well, I'm not going to get where I want to be just doing the things they do here. So I was I want a mentor in LA in entertainment, who from ASU graduated and is doing something there. So they're okay, well, we can connect you to the executive producer at Extra. He's an alumni. So I was okay. And so I had never even been to California. And like the next week I was like, I'm coming to California. I want to meet you. So I like drove there. I met him. I met like Mario Lopez and Maria Menounos, which is crazy. Maria Menounos, which I actually like know her better now, like went up to me and was like, you're going to do this, which is really inspiring. But we'll get to how I manifested it. So all this stuff is happening. The guy at Extra, even though he was like reviewing my resume and things, wasn't giving me an internship. I was like, I need an internship, hint, hint. And all he kept saying is like, when you move here, you'll get an opportunity. You just have to move here. Like no one was helping me. So I was just like, okay, when I graduate, I'm just going to move here. Mm-hmm. So my senior year, I discovered The Secret. Have you guys heard about The Secret?
No.
So it's like okay, you're saying yes, you don't know. It's like a documentary about like manifestation and like the law of attraction. And I had always attracted things I wanted in my life. Like I had some process that I had always done. Like my friends would be like, Lindsay, how do you always get what you want? Like my friends and I would go out and crazy things would happen. We'd like go to the club and we would end up hanging out with like Joey Fatone and like Dave Franco, and like we wouldn't be trying. We would just be having a really good time, and somehow we would like meet these people and they'd want to hang out with us like genuinely. It wouldn't be like, oh, you're famous or oh, you're not famous. It would just be like, you're fun, let's hang out. And my friends were always like, how do you get everything you want? And I had this internal process, but I didn't know it was a thing until I saw The Secret. So then once I saw The Secret, I had realized it was called the law of attraction, which means like our energy is a vibration. So like I like to say it, like think of it like music. Like if you are singing, everyone's going to match the tone that you're singing. So if someone's singing high, we're all going to try to reach that high tone. If everyone's singing low, we're all going to reach that low tone. So if we're vibrating at a low level, you're going to attract negative things to you because that's like the radio frequency you're tuned into. If you're at a high level, you're going to attract the high level things to you because that's the frequency. Like you know it when you see it. And so I realized that was an actual like thing, and it's actually scientific, which that's a whole nother thing. But there were techniques they gave in the show, like making vision boards and writing down daily affirmations. So I was like, oh, well, what if I wrote down every day what I wanted? Like maybe this will come true, because the people in the video were like, it was like Oprah, really successful people. And they kept saying, I wrote down everything I wanted, and everything word for word came true. And so I was like, I'm going to do this. So a few months before I started graduating, I just had like a notepad, and every single day I wrote a bunch of stuff. I wrote, I am beautiful, I have abs, like everything I wanted. But for a career, I wrote, I am an entertainment journalist in LA, and I've won awards. I've gone to every single red carpet, and I just wrote all this down every day. And again, I'd only been to LA one time. I did not know, besides for that guy at Extra who wouldn't help me, I didn't know anybody. So I just wrote this down. I graduate, still don't have like any opportunities. Then over the summer, I'd already determined I'm moving to LA, and I know something's going to happen. I go to a bar with my friends. This is the weirdest way to ever get a job. I'm from Chicago. I go to a bar with friends, and my friends and I, we like to make friends. Like I told you, we vibrate on this level where we just meet everybody and have like these crazy fun experiences. So they were friends with the manager of this bar. We're like 21. So they're like, come meet this manager. He's going to give us free drinks. He's going to take care of us for the night. He's so nice. So I start talking to him, and I start telling him I'm going to move to LA. Exactly the story I told you. Like, you know, my mentors won't help me. They just told me to move to LA and I'll become a journalist. And all of a sudden he goes, my sister works at InTouch Weekly, a celebrity magazine in California. Like, do you want me to connect you with her?
Wow.
And this is literally like 2 months after graduating college. And I was like, yes, can I like please send her my resume? Like, whatever I can do. So he goes, let me ask her permission. She said, okay. I sent her my resume. And then they're just like, let us know when you're in California and we'll meet with you. So I said, okay. And I didn't think about anything of it. And then before I even moved to California, I got an email from them, and they said, hey, Jenny McCarthy is going to be in Chicago for an event. Do you want to interview her? And of course I was like, yes. I think it was like the next day. I had like 1 day notice. And I was like, yes, this is like my chance. So I go and I interview her, and it's so weird. Like, this is how the law of attraction works. Like a year before, I had snuck into an event. That's where I met the Dave Franco story. I could go on with all these stories. But I became friends with the videographer of that event. And that videographer of that event ended up to be filming this event. And then I ended up becoming friends with the publicist of this event. And so it's weird how we were all connected. But I'll try to make the story faster. Anyways, making a long story short, They liked my work. So when I came to LA, they still didn't tell me they were going to hire me. They actually had me do 2 events in Chicago before I moved there. And then the day I got there, they didn't look at my resume, like nothing. They just met with me and they were like, do you want to work here for the day? Just see what it's like. Like, I just thought I was going to come in, you know, when they invite you, just like shadow, you know, talk to me, be like, this is how it is. Same thing the extra guy did. That's what I thought they were going to do. And they were like, actually, do you want to work here for a day? Let's just see what it's like. So I was like, okay. So what they had me do is they have something called back reporting, where like you go undercover to a restaurant and you like have to find out what someone's eating to see if they're pregnant. Like if they drink alcohol, they might not be pregnant. You know, if they didn't, obviously, you know, they can't eat fish. So I went to ask questions. I drove all over for hours. I sent them all this information. Then I got on like multiple people who happened to have just eaten there, not just the people I went there. And then I was done. They're like, wow, this is amazing. Like, we'll pay you for the day. And I was like, wait, people in LA, and they also paid me in Chicago. So like, I kept being like, wait, Hollywood pays you? Like, I thought if you're new, they're not going to pay you. They're going to like use you. But they were like, no, this is like a typical day rate. Here you go. I was like, wow. And I'm like, what does this mean? And they're like, yes, let us know when you move here. And so I moved there like a month or two later. And I kept being like, hey, you keep saying see you when I move here. What does that mean? And so the girl that I knew kept saying, oh, well, you'll probably freelance for us for a while, like a few days a week. And they usually start people as freelancers to make sure they can handle things. You know, like literally my first day, they're like, you either sink or you float, like go do it. And so I was like, okay, I don't know what even freelancer means, but like, whatever, I'm just going to move there just like the guy told me to. And then literally like 3 days before I moved there, they were like, oh, our in-office freelancer just quit. So you're going to be in the office at least like 2 days a week. And then I was like, that's great. Like, I never had an interview. Like, I'm just sitting here being like, I don't even know, like, what is, like, I had never had an interview. Like, they just had me do stuff. Like, I don't know what any of this means, but I'm just like, okay, I got to move there as fast as possible. We got to get there before this momentum ends. So then basically I moved there. And as soon as I moved there, instead of working 2 days a week, they basically had me be full-time freelance. Literally the moment I met, I was working like 7 days a week. And, you know, everything I wrote down happened. Like within 3 months, I did win an award in school. That's a side story, but I went to every single red carpet. I ended up working for InTouch and Life and Style magazine, which are national celebrity magazines. And it just manifested. Like, I have no other word for it. Like, obviously I had the degree for it. I had the internships and they made me work real hard, but I don't know how to explain other than manifestation that I met a random guy at the bar. His sister worked there and then someone happened to quit. And then I was just there full time ever since. So that's kind of the long story that went from not believing in myself to learning about manifestation to ending up going to the Oscars and the Grammys and having a dream job.
Wow, that is such an inspiring, incredible story that we don't hear like every day. And you definitely manifested your dream job.
Yeah, sorry if I said it so long. I was like, oh, I just like to say it from the beginning to hear like the process of how
I have like
happened.
so many questions though right now.
Good.
Based on what you're sharing. And I think just what really touched me in your manifestation journey is that, you know, having that higher vibration, like, attracted it to you. And I think what I think made the difference is like, because you were going into a career that wasn't like a straightforward path. There wasn't like, okay, do this step and then do this step and then do this step. It was just like, we don't even know exactly, just move to LA. And that's all you're given.
Yeah, they told me, they're like, if you move here, someone will need you last minute. And when you're in, you're in. That's like what he told me.
Okay. Yeah. And I think for some people, I think what distinguishes it, I think, is that some people, when they have like this big lofty dream that they think is impossible, they're kind of afraid to share it because they're like, oh, well, that won't happen. You know, that's impossible. It's just like this pipe dream kind of a thing. But you were just being someone, you were just like determined. You knew this is what you wanted, exactly what you wanted. And you were sharing that. And you're like, I don't know exactly how. And then you just happened to connect with someone who had a sister in that industry, which was perfect. And then it just like, everything just fell into place, which is pretty incredible. And yeah, that was the ultimate manifestation story. So very inspiring.
Yeah, that's something too that I had thought about because I still struggle. It's not like self-doubt goes away. Like I literally think negative thoughts all the time. I'm in a rut all the time. You have to push through. But one thing that I had thought about lately, I hadn't even thought about telling everybody being afraid to, because in my mind, I guess I like had blinders on and I was like, I'm going to do this. Whether you help me or not, like if you don't help me, I'm just going to create my own thing. Like something's going to happen. Like literally when they eventually did interview me to put me on staff, I was like, before I even worked here, I was already going to celebrity parties. So like, I'm already going to be there. You might as well hire me. It's like, that's what I said in the interview. But what I did realize is we're often like afraid to say what we want, like the things we want the most. Like even to this day, like I want to do on camera stuff, which I haven't done as much yet. And I've also created my own business doing events, and a lot of people call me more for that than for on camera stuff. So I'll sit here being like, I want to talk about what I want, but like, have I gone too far the other way? I have all these thoughts in my head, and I'm often afraid to talk about the things I want. Because also there's the other thought, if it doesn't happen, are people going to think I'm a failure? You know, even if maybe I decide I just don't want that to happen anymore, my goals changed, or I don't know, you know, I'd have these thoughts like I shouldn't tell people, or I'm going to jinx it. And then I realized, and I made a video about this on YouTube, is you have to be like the Stanley Steamer commercial. When everyone knows that jingle, like all jingles do and commercials do is repeat over and over again, like what they want you to do and like what they are. I mean, even the Frosted Flakes commercial is like, Frosted Flakes are more than good, they're great. That's an affirmation. They want people to think that. They want people to remember that, and they want people to say it. So everyone like together is saying this affirmation over and over and over again. So instead of thinking you're going to jinx yourself or what if you don't do it, you just need to tell people, because you don't know who you're going to tell one day who's going to be able to help you. Because now, you know, I've had times people were in a meeting and they needed someone, and I talked to them for like 5 years. Like I have a video about how I almost manifested $100,000, and that's just because I talked to someone who worked at Pizza Hut for like 5 years trying to work with them on something. And then finally there was a meeting where I could help after talking to him for 5 years, and he saw my work and he knew me. He's like, hey, we have $100,000 we have to use up by the end of the year. Do you want to pitch something for it? You know, he like gave me a chance. They ended up going with like their agency, but the fact was like, I talked to somebody so much over and over again for all of these situations that finally one day, like I was the first person to come in their head. So instead of being like afraid to say what you want, like you'll pop up in someone's head one day. You'll be like the commercials.
Right. Yeah.
All right, I have like 10 million questions. I'll start with, let's see, where should I start? So a couple times it's come up, this like self-doubt that you said that you feel. And I would be curious how you've dealt with that. Because I don't think I think that's a very common experience, but I don't think everybody deals with it. I don't think everybody is like, okay, cool, I'm just going to drop everything and go to LA and I'll figure it out. So I'd be curious what like that piece looks like for you.
Yeah. Well, then I got really lucky. Like I was on a manifestation thing because I decided to like move there and figure it out. And like literally in the process of moving, like I was just determined I was gonna, if I had to like knock on people's doors or call everybody or find, like I was determined at that time. But I actually, before I even moved there, ended up like getting the job, which is crazy. Like I guess really if you drop everything. So that time I was in a total go mode. But the times I have self-doubt, I have like a process. And there's a couple things. Like first, I allow myself to doubt myself, obviously for not too long. But sometimes I'll go through phases. Sometimes I'll be really sad for like 2 weeks and literally just like do nothing and be like, I'm stupid, I'm doing nothing, I'm not progressing in my life. And what I do is I kind of just have a conversation with myself. I ask myself like, okay, what is it that I want? And then I ask myself, why do I think I can't do it? And then I'll respond. Like I'll list all the reasons of like why I can't. And then I'll write this down sometimes too. And then I'll just break it down. Like I'll just literally write down, okay, well, if I want to like alleviate this, what do I have to do? I have to like talk to this person, this person, and this person. I have to have the confidence to do this. And I don't always take action. Like there's some things I want to do right now that I've been kind of waiting to take action on because I've learned like you have to feel the confidence within yourself to actually do these things. So I like to practice my conversations before I say them. I like to feel sturdy enough to move forward, but you just have to know that eventually you are going to move forward and you just can't let yourself stay there. You just have to like break down that thought and say like, stop. I don't want to think this. I deserve more for myself. And when I don't do that, even recently, I got so sad being like, I feel like I let down like my child within myself when I was younger, dreaming about my future. Like, I feel like I let her down. Like she would do whatever she wanted. She believed in anything. Like, why am I doubting myself? Like I'll literally sometimes sit and cry. And I do. And I think that is a good technique too. It's like, you have to think of yourself as a child when you just like believed in the world and you're like, I want to make that child happy. So I just do that. I also have a process too. When I looked back in my journal, every time I'm upset, I usually will like write down all my thoughts that make me mad. Like I'll scream. Like I'm not a person who screams or swears. But when I'm mad, I'll take out my journal and I'll be like swearing and screaming, like nothing anyone's ever seen me say, like all capital letters. I just get it all out. And then I usually have a dream at night. I have literally this weird process, I guess. Like I have a dream at night that like has to do with what happened. And then I'll journal the dream and then I'll read it back and see how the dream like kind of had to do with the day, and also see if there's any meaning that happened in the dream. Sometimes I'll be like, I need an answer from my subconscious. Is this going to happen in my dream? Sometimes it does. That's a whole nother conversation. And then for like the next week, I'll write down daily affirmations. Like, I am beautiful. I am happy. I mean, my vision board, I wish you could see, is like sitting in front of me right now. And I just kind of go through a process where instead of letting myself stay there, it's like exercising every day. Like I just exercise my mind. So I know when I get in these ruts, which happen, if people knew how much anxiety I have, it's sometimes so bad, but I just have like a daily workout that I do even when I feel like I can't do it. So I don't let myself stay there. I just say, no, like I want to do more than this.
Yeah, that explains a lot and it really helps. Because I think one thing that I see or like have experienced looking at some of the people creating content or talking about like manifesting things is they talk about kind of just the two endpoints and not the middle. I don't think that's been the case here. Yeah. But I think for people who don't know anything about it, sometimes they don't realize like it's not just the ideas. Like there's a lot of work. And like how you've just explained, like you have really good detailed processes for even just this one specific thing of like overcoming doubt. So I have no doubt that you have many other processes and tools for like all sorts of other things that you run into in your life. I'd be curious to know, like, do you have a schedule or like a regimen or like something to source more information along these lines? Because it sounds like you've done a lot of work in this area, like with just like general personal development.
Well, like there's two parts. I feel like my worst quality is I don't really have as good of a schedule, like to do things. I should. I'm like not a morning person. So what I found with me is like what's really important for me is to sleep and relax. So I always put that first. And it sounds really counterintuitive because I should wake up early. I should just focus nonstop. But for some reason, I work the best if I'm in a relaxed state. So I just put it first. So if there's like a day I just was like, I don't want to do anything, I need to like relax, I'll do that. Because in those days, they always talk about how like ideas come in the shower. Those are the days things come to me versus like when I'm like hustling, and then I'm not eating food, and then I'm freaking out, and then I burn out. So I guess I have more of like for me, like a flexible process. So like I actually have right here, I wanted to start fixing it because I did start getting a little anxiety, but I bought like an adult assignment notebook. And so now I kind of write down days of the week I want to do stuff, who I'm going to contact. So that's like my process kind of for like that. I just always make sure my basic needs are met. I always have to sleep. I always have to eat. I always have to feel healthy. If none of those needs are met, then I can't focus on the other things, basically, because there's just, you're not your best self if you're not taking care of yourself. And wait, what was the other question? I forgot what the other one was.
I think the main question was just kind of like, what path or resources did you use to get here? Because like you have so many tools, right? Like I can tell just from talking for a few minutes that it's like you have journals, you have like calendars, you have like all these different ways, you have a process for overcoming self-doubt. So like I think most people don't have nearly that many tools, and I'm curious like where you found those or how you got to them.
So like the story is really, that's another weird story, but it honestly starts from when I was born. I don't know why, I truly feel like I remember when I was born. I know that sounds really weird, but I kind of like remember I don't even know if it was before I was born. All I remember is like the first thing I ever heard in my mind was, remember this, like don't forget. And it was basically to not forget like your inner self, how you can like connect with like the source of energy and like this loving feeling. And also to not forget like your purpose. And my purpose was like to remind other people. And so like you can forget because like when you're little, you're like connected to everything. Like think about when you're little, you don't think about what anyone cares. You just live your life in the moment. And then society will distract you. Like I have to like dye my hair. I have to have these things. And like those things are cool, but like they also can distract you. And you can really, in the snap of a finger, forget all of those things. So for some reason, I don't know why, but I thought that when I was little. So I like truly practiced on my memory. And then I was really lucky that I have amazing parents. So like they took care of all my basic needs. So because like, that's why I'm all about taking care of your needs. Because all my needs were met, I had this ability to not have to worry about where food was coming from. I didn't have to worry about insecurity. I had time to like think about greater thoughts in the world at like a younger age. And when I would say weird things to my parents about like the universe, or ask like all these existential questions, or I'd even be like, oh, I feel like I'm psychic. Like I have a feeling like that my mom literally says this. Like one time I was like, I really want these Polly Pocket shoes that are sold out. You should stop at this Kohl's. I think they're there today. And they were. There was like one pair there. And my mom I'd be like, I think I'm psychic. And I don't even remember this. I was 3. And my mom was like, yeah, I think you are too. And so like they would just validate these things in me. And my mom went to school to be a social worker. So every night, like she'd talk to me. She'd explain to me why people are the way they are, if kids were mean to me. She grew up with their parents. She knew what was going on in their families. So I had like a lot of time to like grow this ability to think like beyond the basic stuff at a young age. So then by the time there was like the internet, I don't really know how this happened, but I just started Googling stuff. Like I would have like these weird feelings and I'd be like, well, what is this? And so I started getting like super spiritual, like, oh, there's things called spirit guides, and like, oh, there's things called this. And that seemed like all these things I was experiencing, and there was like information about it on the internet. So I just started like, I don't know, researching all of these things. And I would also notice every successful person I wanted to be like had a process. So I don't know, I just started Googling all of them, like starting when I was 10, like what dreams meant, like anything that was like interesting to me, I would want to know the process, and I would just research it until now. And so I just started discovering more and more things. And, you know, as I discovered it, I would meet more people like that, and then they would show me more things, and just continue to grow. And I guess the last thing I want to add is by the time I got to college, I was so interested in it, and there was already so many more resources. You know, I started taking like electives in like psychology and sociology. Like, you know, I've always just been a person where I see something and I'm like, why is that the way it is? So that's kind of like how I got to where I am. But there are now resources everywhere. Like you could just Google. I mean, also one tip I want to add too is like talk to everyone you meet. Like a lot of people will be like, ew, I don't want to talk to you. Why is this person talking to me? Like unless someone has a scary vibe, I'll talk to anybody I meet, because everyone always has a message. You never know who you're talking to. You know, like one time I talked to a random person and it turned out they were like a billionaire from San Francisco who like created all of this stuff and was friends with the Black Eyed Peas. And, you know, now he's a good friend of mine and he's truly a nice person. And we went out with the Black Eyed Peas that night. But like, it was all because I thought he had a cool necklace. And, you know, other people might've been like, I don't want to talk to you. So I don't know. Or like, you know, there could be a person at the airport who comes to you and they're like, oh, you're wearing flowers. My mom passed away. That's the sign of them. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to know. So it's like, don't close yourself off to like the world, because everyone has like a story to like offer to like change your life. So if you're always looking at the world that everything you encounter is going to change your life for the better, then that's, you know, what you're going to find. So hopefully that answered your question.
Yeah, it did. And I think you touched on the other question that I had or was going to ask, like somehow, I guess you psychically answered that question as well. But I was going to ask kind of how you view your relationships with people or like meeting new people, because in your introduction, I really keyed in on like these relationships that you had kind of built genuinely, but with no real expectation of anything coming from them. They did, you know, things came back in unexpected ways or at unexpected times, and it was just a matter of being open. So I know you kind of answered it already. I don't even know if I have a full question, but if there's anything more you want to say on like how you look at relationships or how you think about interacting with people. Because like you said, I don't think it's, well, I think for a lot of people, it's not super natural to like, oh, I'm going to go talk to this person about this. I'm going to go talk to this person about this.
Yeah. So this is actually a special process I feel like is magic. There's like 2 ways people walk into a room. Some people walk into a room and they think like, what do people want from me? Or like, I'm scared, like all these guys are going to touch me, or I'm going to meet mean people, or don't talk to me, I have anxiety. Like you walk into the room thinking more of like what people want of you, versus me, when I walk into a room, I just think, oh, everybody wants to meet me. Everybody wants to feel love. All I want to do is make everybody feel their best today. Like I feel my best today, and I'm imagining like a yellow orb of energy around me. And everybody else is going to feel that too. And all the people who are the most fun are going to come, they're going to come to me. Like I'm just going to live in the moment and enjoy myself and attract that to me. And everyone who meets me, like I always have a saying, like my life purpose is if you meet me and you feel better after you talk to me, then like my life purpose is done. So I just go into every room thinking everyone wants to meet me. I'm going to make their life feel better. I want to make their life feel better. And everyone I meet, they're going to probably make my life feel better too. So that's like every experience I go in, and I don't really have high expectations other than like, I'm going to truly be happy in the moment and everything's going to work out. And I think people pick up on that because people are used to people like wanting things from them or being mean to them or whatever. And when people realize that you don't want anything from them, you just want to be happy and that's all anybody else wants, they do that too. And I think that's part of the reason where I've had all these crazy experiences. And I also have had crazy experiences with people who aren't famous. Like I just happen to meet really great people all the time because when you like, it's like the law of attraction, likes attracts like when you see it, you're like, yes, you have that vibe where it's going to be the best night. Let's be friends. And I'll give one more example of this too, is I actually have this friend that I met. And I remember when I met him, I like had saw that he was texting Zac Efron. And I was just like, how do you know Zac Efron? Like, you just seem like you know everyone. And he's like, oh, you know, like I was like out one time having a really good time. And he just came up to me and he was just like, you look like you're a good time. Like, I want to be friends. And then I just remember thinking, I 100% believe that because that's how I became friends with you. Like, I just saw you and I was like, you're so fun. And I literally was like a 5-year-old. I was like, can I be friends with you? Can I hang out with you today? Like, you just look so fun. And he was like, yeah. So I was like, well, that's like, it's just, if you see a fun person in the room, you want to be around that person. And that's just like, you can't come into a room thinking negative things. You have to think about what you can control, which is you, and that you're going to make those around you happy. And then when people realize you genuinely are happy and you want them to be happy, like magic happens.
I could definitely see that. And it just has me rethink of how I go into a room like with a lot of people. I feel like I'm a pretty extroverted person, but if it's like a lot of people, I'm just like, okay, I'm not going in with the intention of like, okay, I'm going to be my most vibrant self. I'm like feeling it out. What's their vibe? What's my vibe? And I'm like hesitating. Yeah. What do they want from me? Are they going to hit on me? I don't want that. Like, there's all
you can like control, and you can control the vibe of the room. Because, you know, you've been in that room where everyone brings you down. But if you're like, especially if you're with your group of friends who are like that, it will like rise the room. And I do get anxiety when I'm out. And in those moments where like I'm feeling a negative vibe, I'll keep to myself. Like, this is another, actually, if we have time, I have a really crazy story. Is like, one time I got invited to a party at Drake's house. I actually never told the story. Publicly. And I had interviewed Nicki Minaj and she forgot about me for like 3 hours. So I became friends with her bodyguard. And he was like, oh, I'm a bodyguard for the game and Drake's having a party like next week. Do you want to go to his house? So of course I'm like, yes. And he's like, you can bring whoever you want as long as they're girls. So I was like, okay. So I like went to a party at his house, but at his house, I felt really like weird because I didn't know anyone there except for my friend. And so everyone there was either famous or a person who like wanted to be famous. And there wasn't really like anything in between. Like they were either kind of like a groupie person where like they just didn't feel like they fit my energy, or they were famous. I was like, I can't talk to anybody here. Like I'm trying to talk to these people, but I can't have a complete conversation. And then I'm trying to talk. I can't talk to the famous people because they're gonna be like, why are you talking to me? And I actually lost my friend because she was like on her own mission that night. So I was just like by myself. And at first I didn't know what to do. I was like playing basketball. I randomly ended up playing basketball with, I think, James Harden, but I don't know who basketball players are. I like Googled after the fact. But he had like a beard and someone took a picture with him. He was tall. I was like, oh, that's probably a basketball player. It wasn't like actually playing basketball. It was like playing horse. But then I was like, I don't know what to do. Like, I really wish I had like someone genuine to talk to. So I literally just sat in a corner. And I just remember thinking, well, like, I'm just going to bring somebody to me who's nice. Or if anything, like, I'm just, like, meditating right now. And then, like, 5 minutes later, this guy came up to me. And he was like, hey, like, can I talk to you? Like, can I, like, be your friend? I feel like you're a genuine person because you're at Drake's house. And instead of, like, doing stuff at this amazing house, you're literally just, like, sitting by yourself. And I just feel like that means you're looking for a genuine person. I was like, that's crazy you picked up on that because that's literally what I was thinking. So anyways, I talked to him for like 10 minutes and he was really cool. And then they were shutting down Drake's party. They were going to like, everyone he didn't know was going to leave and everyone he did know was going to stay. And at the end of our conversation, he's like, oh, my brother's in like Drake's crew. Do you want to hang out with all of us the rest of the night? And then I was like, yeah, that's cool. Like, what are the chances? He's like, yeah, come in. Like, let me introduce you to Drake. Let me introduce you to everybody. And it was just really cool because, like, I had just sat down being like, I just want someone who I can have a real conversation with who, like, you know, I want a famous person. If I'm going to talk to a famous person, to just treat me like a regular person, not like I want something from them. You know, I just want to feel normal. And it just so happens the person who randomly talked to me happened to be friends with Drake. And it just was weird. Like the energy had like attracted. So I always like that story because it kind of just shows like, I wasn't looking for anything. I just wanted to meet a nice person. And someone might have been like, ew, is this guy going to like flirt with me? Like, I don't want someone to touch me, you know? And it's like, there's all these missed people you can meet and opportunities. And then it's very rewarding when you're like, wow, like that's weird. Like, I guess Drake saw this frequency too, because like, how would this have happened? So that's kind of like an example of how like, I kind of will try to relax. And there's always like one other person who's like on that wavelength, and somehow you find each other.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to me because as someone who hasn't spent any time in that area, like you only hear, or at least I only hear, it only gets to my circles, like the more fake bad vibes that you were talking about, right? Like, I don't know, it's for sure a stereotype, right? Like there's a stereotype of like super party culture, and then like, oh, some like sketchy clique stuff. And like, it's really nice to hear the more real stories of like, hey, you can just go to these places, you can hang out with people, they're real people. Like if you have the right, if you're bringing the right energy into your interactions, like you can meet genuine people. And I don't know, like I'm so far removed from any of that like it's just like to me, but it's nice to hear. It's nice to hear that like it's not this fake stereotype, and people who care about it or are like interested in it probably know better than I do. But I just think it's cool to hear like, hey, I'm just being a genuine person. And still, even in this place where you hear stories of like, there's so much like people being fake and trying to get ahead of each other and whatever else, that like just being genuine and interacting with people in a way that's like, I just want to get to know people and bring out the best in them and be the best myself. Like that produces results everywhere, it seems like.
And I like bringing up these stories too, because I mean, it's like that with anybody. I just like saying famous people because it's like sounds more like hard for that to happen. Like, how did that happen? And there definitely are like fake mean people, you know, in Hollywood. Like I've definitely had people be mean to me, and you know, I mean, to me it was no difference because like growing up I've had people be mean to me. So to me I was like, well, this is like no different. Like, and you have to just know your own worth, and you just know that they have something going on in their lives. So it's just like kind of how you like look at it. And I've just realized as I focused more on just like my own energy, I really don't deal with that. And maybe these people come to me and I do get like knocked off. Like I'm one of these people, if like there's a bad vibe, I will like get knocked off for a while. But I just see that happening less and less because I'm just not even focused on that. So now when it comes to me, if I talk to a person who seems shady, I just know they're shady, and I can just say a couple sentences and they don't know how to answer it. And I have this like protective bubble, and it just, I know that they can't affect me and that I can do whatever I want and that I'm always going to have fun. Like, I don't need to like meet Drake. Like, is that really cool and fun? Like, yeah, but I just want to be happy. So I just find when you're like that, you end up meeting like the good people because there are good people. And so now I know all the good people, you know, and I don't really meet any of the bad people because I'm focused on the good. And I'm also, you have to know your worth. Like, you can't, like, if something doesn't feel right, like I've had people give me contracts and do things that don't feel right. Even if it's like a dream opportunity or for something, I just say no because the vibe is like wrong. And you just have to not feel like I need to have this job. I need to like do this. Like, you have to be like, no, this is what I need for like me and to feel my happiest. Like, I don't want these people throwing off my energy. Like, at the end of the day, like nothing's more worth it to me than just being happy and healthy. And if something came between that, like, and that's why I used to be full time and I went freelance, is like, I didn't have time to take care of myself. And if you can't take care of yourself, like, it's just like at the end of the day, like if you're on your deathbed, you could be like at the Oscars and doing all these cool things. But if you never took a moment to like live your life and like see your family and enjoy it, like a lot of people would say that it's not like worth it, you know? So I always just want to put those things first. And I think you find other people like that. So hopefully that answered your question.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even know if it was a question. I just think it's nice to hear the stories, like just nice to hear that, you know, I think some people have the idea of like, oh, if I just got into whatever higher like social status level or whatever, or like if I could just get into the right circle or get into the right whatever, like then everything would work out. And I just feel like the stories that you're telling make it so much more clear. What I think is more realistic is like whatever you're doing is what matters. Like, you don't need to go find the right like perfect opportunity and then everything falls in place. Like, you need to settle up yourself. You need to figure out what you want and what you want to do and what you want to put out, and then the world kind of just like comes together around that.
Yeah, it just gives it to you. You're like, this is what I want, and I'm this. And they're going to come to me. I mean, I've even done it on the red carpet. There was like George Clooney, and I told this girl, like, George Clooney's going to stop with me at 1 second. This is a practice. I'm going to pretend there's like a ball around me. I'm going to like send this beam, this energy to him, and he's going to feel it, and he's going to talk to me. I mean, it was only for a second because he was walking down, but he specifically stopped and looked at me and answered. And we were just like, whoa, it like works, because I mean, we do have magnetic fields. We can feel people like around us. And so if you're really like vibrating at this level, like, you don't even know why. I'm sure you've gone around and you've looked at a random person, and you're like, why does this person stand out? Like, I just want to vibrate that frequency, and it's like magnets. And once you believe that, and you just be like, you know, you don't come in it like, I need this, whatever. It's like, no, everything needs me. Like, I'm here to make things better. Like, it's going to come to me. And if you come in it that way, it feels, and it's not like, I feel like people think that in a selfish way, but it's really not selfish. It's just, in my mind, I'm like, I just really want to make people smile and feel happy. Like, I can't, like, even thinking about it, like, I can't sit still. I'm like, I'm so excited to make people happy today, you know? So you just have to kind of, instead, like, there's my favorite quote by Marianne Williamson that goes, as we let our light shine, we unconsciously give permission for others to do the same. So, like, instead of being scared of, like, letting your light shine and being your best, just remember when you do that, other people see it, and then they're like, I could do that too.
Pretty inspiring, and like the big takeaways that I'm getting from just like your way of being this vibrant, high positive, happy person, it just like attracts all these things, but you're also not having any expectations. You know your worth, your self-worth, and you just kind of have this like very childlike curiosity about like everything, and it just brings all these amazing things and opportunities, and just people, whether it's just for a genuine conversation, which is a win in itself, just having a great conversation. It doesn't have to lead into anything, but sometimes, you know, if the opportunity is right, it's like they see that you're a real person and not trying to like get anything, and that makes a difference.
Yeah. And I'm sure you guys have experienced where someone's like come up to you and they told you like something you needed to hear that day. It's like, that happens so much. Every time I meet someone, I'm like, maybe they're going to like change my life by like talking to me today, or maybe I'm going to change their life. Like, I don't even know. Like, so I kind of go into everything, you know, with that thought, and it kind of neutralizes it. Like, if there's like a mean person talking to you, they don't really know how to respond to you when you're coming from that level. Like, they kind of have to like raise up their level if you refuse to go down, and it kind of diffuses when people are like mean, because they're like, oh, it's not going to work on this person.
Yeah, totally.
I was just going to make a stupid joke and just say that, like, your vibes must be better tuned than mine, because people just come up to me and ask me, like, random questions. They don't really tell me things I need to hear. They're just like, where's the directions to Walmart? I'm like, I don't know. I'm not from here.
That happens to me too, but my thought is like, oh, I just still get excited. I'm like, oh, they picked me out of anybody. Like, I just think things like, oh, I look very knowledgeable. I just like to help people. Like, they picked up on that. Like, I don't know. I get excited when people, like, seek me out of like everyone. I'm like, someone picked me, like, and then when I can help them, I'm like, oh my God, like, I helped this person today.
That's awesome. Actually, that just made me think of, I remember my very first date with my current partner of 2 years. It was like we were just resonating on such a high frequency. Like, the chemistry was like sparks off the roof. I've never had the experience of like actually feeling like I was in love with someone from a first date. That's never happened in my life. But it was just like we were so connected. And then like we had this amazing date, and it was just a coffee date. And then I was like riding a high, because we were just so authentic and real and just straight with each other and really vibing. Like, I totally get that like high frequency, happy vibe. And then I went into Safeway to run an errand, which was right next door, to grab some groceries after we separated for the date. And this woman came up to me and she asked me just some random question. And I'm like always like wary. I'm like, oh, is she gonna ask me to like join her religion or
yeah.
I was like, what does she want? I was like, I don't know. But then she asked me like, what I'm doing like this research project, and I want to ask you, what's the difference between happiness and joy? And I was like, oh my God, I love this question. And I just like gave her like, I was like, that was just like so random and just like the perfect timing, because I was like, oh, I got an opinion about this for sure. So
yeah, it's like she picked up on that, and it was kind of like a sign from you. Like, there's these, I'm like getting chills. I think about it. There's always these weird moments. Like, I think everybody's had a magical moment in your life. So it's just like, and I feel like they tend to happen to me a lot, but it's just because once you like start feeling like, oh, I'm the magical moment. Cause like I've had people come to me, like I said, like, you're wearing the shirt. This was like the sign I needed to see today. Like, I wake up every day being like, I hope I'm the sign someone's like looking for too. You know, like I want to give it back because it happens to me so much. When you're like like, if everything you see is a miracle, literally everything's like a miracle. Like, from all this, I realized like the meaning of life is the meaning you choose to like give it. So like, just like you can annotate your book at school, you can annotate your life. Like, I literally give everything meaning. So for me, my life is so meaningful and everything has meaning. And there's all these synchronicities because I just have my symbols. Like, oh, this means this today. This means this. And like, I mean, the other day it was crazy. I'm about to post this on Facebook. My boyfriend and I just got engaged, and I was telling him how I was feeling. Thank you. I was telling him how I was feeling like kind of nervous, even though we've been together for 5 years and friends for like 8. I was scared at the same time, you know, because we're past the honeymoon phase. It's like at the beginning, it's all like romantic, but we've been together for so long now. It's like we have moments, but it's not like a fairy tale all the time. And then also you're like, oh, this is real life. Like, is this the rest of my life? So I was telling him I was scared. And then 2 crazy things happened. We were like at this Airbnb in a hot tub, and all of a sudden an owl just like perched in this tree in front of us, like looking right at us. And an owl is like his like animal. Like, you know how everyone has like whatever their thing is that they see that's like their thing. An owl is his thing. So we're just like, oh my God, like we took a picture of it. I'm gonna like post it today actually. And we're talking about that. And now, so I always talk to the universe. Sometimes I talk out loud and I'm like, okay, who did that for us? Like, you know, I thought maybe it was like a family member that passed away who's like, let me, like, because it's something only we would know have meaning to us. Like, when does an owl just like sit there for 10 minutes in front of you, like looking at you? And so I was like, okay, who did that? Who did that? Like, that's how I was looking. And like 2 seconds later, there was a shooting star, like right behind the owl, as I was asking, like, who did this for us? And then we like freaked out. We literally started like crying because, well, one, like, how do you see an owl with a shooting star? Like, if the owl wasn't there, we would have never seen the shooting star. I was talking about fears I had for the future. And our song, there's a lyric about, like, the whole song, it's called Bright by Smith. It's about how the universe conspires to bring someone together. And literally one lyric in it goes, did you see that shooting star tonight? So we're just like, okay, like, if this is not a sign, like, I don't know what is. I just started talking to the universe, being like, thank you for the gift. Like, I appreciate the reassurance. Like, I literally just had, I was like, sorry to get weird, but I'm literally going to talk to whoever did this. It must be our whole family. It must be a gift from them. But I was just like, I don't know. I just talked to it. Like, to me, I feel like that was orchestrated in a gift to us, you know? So I think we've all had moments like that. And if we just like really believe in them and like are really grateful, then it's like the meaning we gave it. Cause maybe someone, I don't know anyone who would see that, who wouldn't be like, that's the coolest thing I ever seen. But like, I don't know, maybe someone would see an owl and be like, oh, there's an owl, you know? Oh, a shooting star. You have to like give meaning to it, you know? And like at the last thing I would say is just like, as I was saying, like, who did this? I don't know. Just, to me, I don't know, you can probably tell me what you think, but it just feels like, why when I'm asking who did that, they're just like, oh wait, like, let me do one more. There's a shooting star. And then I'm like, okay, I'm done.
Wow. Lindsay, that has been just like, all your stories have been so incredible. And just like, I totally feel like these magical vibes from you. And I'm just so glad that the universe kind of like manifested you into our life and into our YouTube show. And I think it just like seems such like a beautiful fit. And I'm so thankful that you were, and honored that you were on our show. And yes.
Yeah, I hope I have answered everything you wanted. I know I ended up telling a lot of stories, but I just want people to know that there is magic, and you create that magic, and you can like always generate it.
Yeah, absolutely. But you are also like realistic in the sense that like you also go through internal struggles too,
yeah.
like just like every other human being. But it's like there's something about tuning into that vibration and energy really does follow in suit with that law of attraction.
Yeah, it really works.
Yeah.
Awesome. And I can also see that you do the work too. You know, like you have the vision, you have the energy and the vibes and like the idea of what you want, and you also have like the tools and the execution and stuff. So
yeah, you have to.
I think it's just really cool to see. I'll say.
Yeah, I always say like manifestation is really like intention plus action equals manifestation. Like you put the intent of what you want, then you have to act on it, and then you can manifest it.
Wow. Awesome. Great. Is there anything you'd like to plug?
Sure. Yeah. Let's see. I'm usually not on this side. I have a YouTube channel where Dr. Alice is going to be on soon. I'm sure she'll link that down below. It's at Lindsay Hoffman. That's actually all of my social media. I talk about manifestation, all my tips of everything. I even film like my vision board in real life. So every time something happens on my vision board, I'll like make a video about it happening. I have my podcast, Dose of Bliss, which is also on my channel. It's similar to this. And I also have a blog called Dose of Bliss, which is www.doseofbliss.com. And sometimes I put some worksheets on there to go with the videos. So please be my friend and we can all manifest together.
Awesome. I love it. Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you again so much for being on our show. It's been a pleasure and honor to have you.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yes, and thanks everyone for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.